In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It will be the result of your subconscious fears transformed to your conscious awareness. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Well, guys, I have a very special show lined up for us this Sunday morning. I will be sitting down with 3 people I've gotten to know over the course of these past few years of BG Cast, both whom are very involved in the psychedelic and entheogenic medicine communities. Not to mention how much, guys, psychedelic medicine has helped me in my own life. It has helped me overcome a lot of the trauma, a lot of the addiction issues that I had as I was growing up, as much as I know that it has helped a lot of you out there. So since it is starting to surface a lot more, I see more and more people turning their heads towards entheogenic plants, not only to help themselves heal from physical issues, anywhere from emotional to mental and addiction issues, especially here in our conscious collective. I think now's a better time than ever to actually sit down and have these 3 people on. All 3 of these individuals are very well educated in this topic. A lot of them even do work with legal legislation with the topic as well. So, guys, I want to introduce to the stage first. We have Neil Richardson. Neil, thanks for being here, man.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. It's good to see you again.
Of course, man. It's good to see you too. We have Alina. Hey, Alina, how's it going today?
Hi, so happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And last but not least, he is joining us for the first time on BG Cast. This man is a great individual. I always enjoy talking with him. Darris Norfolk, what is up, man?
What's going on, my man? It's good to finally be on here.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. All right, guys. So let's kind of just start breaking it down. So let's start with Neil real quick. Neil, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your involvement in the psychedelic community and how psychedelics have helped you on your own healing journey?
So my journey started probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and it helped me with alcohol and antidepressants and sleeping tablets, and I was trying to find a way to start again. Anyway, so somebody came along and they helped me with microdosing with mushrooms and changa, which eventually, I broke the cycle. And for what that did to me, I tried to pay it forward and help others in the way that I got helped.
Amazing, man. Amazing, man. And that's usually what, I notice a lot of us have had these very amazing experiences when it comes to healing with entheogens. And I love that all of you here have decided to pay it forward. That's kind of the way we do things. It's the best way to kind of start taking your knowledge and help facilitating the experiences for others. Alina, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how psychedelics have helped you on your healing journey as well?
All right. Yeah, so I am the founder of my business called Integrate the Journey. It has to do a lot with psychedelic medicines, and really the focal point is how we integrate these life-changing experiences in our everyday life. So the journey itself is the journey to enlightenment, and that's what life is about. This right here, in a way, is the experience. It's the dream. So what if these psychedelic experiences are really like actually tapping into the reality of things? So integrate the journey is really about gaining the tools so that way afterwards you're fully equipped and you have the tools in your toolbox to deal with things that might not be easy And, I see these medicines as a profound catalyst to your growth. And taking the short way is not always the easiest. Sometimes it's the steeper way up. So, I really think that it takes a lot of courage to walk this path, to, dive into your own minds and really have this raw experience of meeting yourself on that level. So, my background is really working with people one on one, diving into consciousness. I am a certified human design specialist. So I guide people through um, a different type of modality, and I also use that for integration, and it's used as a compass. So human design is big in my life. And then with that, I have first responder background as well. And I really would love to see first responders and veterans get the help that they need, because when I was exposed in that field, I saw that a lot of these people are struggling silently, and they are the heroes, the backbone of our civilization. They fought for our country. So if anyone deserves to gain the help, is definitely the veterans and the first responders, and they desperately need help right now. And unfortunately, right now we don't have super effective means of helping. Instead of just basically giving a package to a veteran that returns and says, oh, here's your prescriptions of drugs. So things, I am an advocate. I show up at my own state capitol quite a lot to fight for psychedelic medicines. And the reason why I even got on this path is because of my own healing. I was also on a journey of 12 years of almost at the rope's end of ending it myself, and these medicines have saved me. So the reason why I'm here and the reason why I have a voice for these medicines, because I feel like on a deep level of myself, I feel like I am in service to these plant medicines, these animal and earth medicines, and just it's a way of giving a helping hand up to those who are struggling and maybe lost in their own, path of evolution. So, yeah, that's how I got here, and why I'm passionate about this topic.
That's really amazing, Alina. And I would honestly feel that entheogenic medicines would help a lot of these first responders kind of come to terms with some of the things that they experience, as well as maybe provide even a deeper meaning to what they do, especially through these immense spiritual experiences that we have on these medicines. Alrighty, Darris, why don't you introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about what you do and how psychedelics have helped you on your healing journey as well.
So my path was definitely not the conventional path, to say the least. I had a very, very brutal past that I struggled with for many years, addiction to everything, basically. And it took a while to finally pull myself out of that and try to do my own healing. And the way the medicines presented themselves to me was definitely a sign from the universe. Like, I wasn't looking for it. It just fell in my lap. And I said, you know what? It's time to try something different. And I was literally drinking a fifth to a fifth and a half of Jameson every single night of the week. I couldn't function the next day without it. And after I had my first ceremony, it opened my eyes. It made me realize that there is a better path to take than to struggle. Like, I was struggling so bad with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, like a lot of the things that I've done in my past that I struggled with insomnia with. I couldn't sleep. The alcohol was the only way I could sleep. And I cold turkey quit. Like, after my first time, like, I cold turkey quit, didn't want anything to do with it anymore. It completely reshaped how I think, how I act, how I respond to things, and just gave me a better look at life altogether. And that was my ultimate realization, that if this can work for me with everything that I've been through, then it has to work for everybody else, whether they go through similar things or completely different things. Like, if it can work for me, it can work for anybody. So that was the ultimate turning point in my life to where I wanted to help people. Like if it could help me, I wanted to just like Alina said, I wanted to give back to the community and share what I was able to heal from. And then the rest was history. I just started, learning how to do ceremonies and really get into the integration therapy with clients and helping them even outside of ceremony. Because 90% of most of my time is spent during or doing the integration therapy, talking with people and helping them through their issues, not just the experience itself, because the integration support is the most important part. Like you have to be able to dig deep and do the inner work, or it's just a novelty at that point if you don't do it. And that's my favorite part, being able to do the integration therapy and help people in every aspect of their life to where they need it mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And it's a very deep passion of mine because of what I've done and the healing I've been able to accomplish within myself.
Absolutely, man. And I love that because, that's something that you and I share very much so, in our story when it comes to psychedelics, because, I had addictions, I was an opioid addict. I was addicted. I got addicted to pills by the pharmaceutical industrial complex when I was 16, 17 years old. And, my experiences helped me kind of see, because I feel a lot of us who are addicts, we're walking around and we're trying to fill this void within us, and when we have these experiences, we come to realize that there was no void within us at all. There's this divine consciousness. There's this amazing energy within us all, that we just didn't realize was there, or, we didn't have that realization. We didn't know. And then, these experiences kind of open that door and that gateway to that. And, we have this connection to something greater than ourselves. So I love your story, man. That is awesome. All righty, guys. So let's get to the questions. So, we always hear from the individuals who have undergone a ceremonial experience, or even I would even say a recreational experience. We always hear about these experiences, these realizations that these individuals have, but we never really get a chance to get a point of view or experience from the facilitators themselves, because this must be a highly spiritual experience for all of you to go through as well. You guys are connecting people with this medicine. You're kind of you're helping them open this door to themselves to see a deeper expression, a deeper presence of themselves that they have. And I'm sure that in and of itself can be just as amazing as, undergoing the experience yourself. So let's start off with Neil. Neil, let's talk about, some of your experiences you've had facilitating. When we talk about facilitating, it can be any type of facilitation, so I know you have helped so many people and you have connected so many people in that manner too. So let's talk a little bit about that with you, man. Let's talk about your experiences of facilitation and how they've kind of helped you spiritually grow on your own as well.
So for me, like I said, I try to help others how I've been helped. So for people to come along with PTSD, depression, trauma, addiction, really it's a reflection of myself and how I helped others. So it was really deep and meaningful for myself it put me on the path that I am today as such. And if I can help one person, then that person can help 10 more, and see it bring people together, put families back together, help people get their lives back together. That is what it's all about for me.
Amazing, man. Amazing. No, I can imagine, because at this point it's, I think one of the biggest things, I actually had a guest on last Wednesday. Real quick, we have some comments from the audience. Spirits, alcohol was a safer and twisted shortcut to spirit. Psychedelics create a permanent channel. I like that, Diana. Very cool. And then also safer as it was legal. I mean, so what she's kind of saying there is alcohol is kind of a botched way of doing things. That's what she was kind of saying there. But Alina, let's kind of talk about you a little bit. Let's talk about your experiences facilitating, because one of the things I've noticed, and like I was going to say real quick before I brought up the comments, in my podcast and what I do, it's helped me heal along the way as well. It's brought it's brought a different perspective to me, and on how I do things and the message I deliver. So I'm sure that's kind of been the same for you a little bit as a facilitator. It's kind of helped you in your healing process as well. So let's hear your story on that and your experience.
Yeah, so I am a combo facilitator. I have a very deep connection with the Amazonian frog medicine. So I do work with amphibian medicines. I'm also particularly interested on the molecule 5-MeO-DMT that is found in the Sonora Desert Bufo alvarius toad. Um, so um, Facilitating medicine and being a witness, honestly, that's really what it is I don't consider myself a shaman or have some kind of status. I don't even consider myself a healer, and the reason why is because I think we all have the innate healing ability to heal ourselves. And I'm one of those people that I don't want to search for my next guru, because really we are that spiritual being already. That is our highest self. So instead of looking outside of yourself to find someone to save you, all of us need to realize that no one is coming to save you. You are here to save yourself. So a lot of these experiences are tapping into your consciousness and having the conversation with the universe. And instead of reading, in a book, and nothing against organized religion, but it all serves a purpose. But if you want to meet God for yourself, search within. Right. So, as someone who has had a long path with these medicines, they have forged and changed my life so much. And being of service to others is truly a gift, but it comes back to being a sacred witness. And anyone in my who participates in my services, they know that I have the conversation about what it means to really be a sacred witness, because we as facilitators, we are here guiding people through, but ultimately no one can really hold your hand through this. You have to go through it yourself. And I refer to a lot of these medicines, warrior medicines, because it does take courage to dive in. You are facing yourself, and a lot of the time it is facing your fears. And when you take it in, there's no, you can't click the red button out. You're in it. You're fully in it. And the only way out is through. So our job as facilitators is really not to be your guru, but to be, in a way, as a psychedelic doula, holding you through this experience and making sure that you're completely safe. And safety is the number one big thing that any facilitator should have. Um, Safety of the container, safety of the medicine, safety of the environment, the setting. There's different layers of safety that is involved. But the participant really has to have three things down, and one is feeling safe with yourself. A lot of people don't have that safety within themselves. So you have to trust yourself that you're going to be okay and you're going to carry yourself through this. And then two, trusting in the medicine, whatever medicine path that you decide to go on. And this is why it's really important to do your homework and do your research, because these medicines are very powerful, and they're not for everybody. So, instead of having other people educate you, there's a sense of responsibility of knowing what you're really getting into, right? These are powerful substances that can make a massive change in your life and be a catalyst, but they can also destabilize people. So knowing that they're not for everybody. And so two is having trust in the medicine. And three is having trust in your facilitator. And those three things are really important. Having trust in your facilitator, making sure that this is a person of integrity, that they actually have had some training in what they're doing, and it's not just a random person who's picking up medicine and they decide to share, but they don't actually care about your, individual safety. Screening is really important. If a facilitator isn't screening, that's a red flag. But having trust in your facilitator gives another layer of safety to be able to relax into the space. And if you can't relax, if your central nervous system is not in a relaxed state, healing is not going to come about, because healing comes whenever you're really in the place of a full surrender into what is about to happen. And that's a lot of the times us meeting ourselves or a different part of our consciousness, or potentially the universe, right? So, um, yeah, from my perspective, we all have the innate healing inside of ourselves. Other people, they're not going to magically heal you. We all have that ability within inside of ourselves. And part of being a sacred witness is what the facilitator on the other side, this is what people don't talk about, is what we get to witness. And that side of things is a whole other topic in itself, but really, being a sacred witness means seeing it all, whatever that contains, whatever that really means. It could be the most beautiful, raw human experience that that
Mhm.
person goes through, and a lot of the time people go through their past, and maybe they don't remember something that happened when they were a child and it completely fragmented their life. And that was the why in the road, basically, and then their life shifted. So being a witness and being support of a person who is going time traveling, really going back in
Mhm.
time and healing those parts of ourselves, is such a really important role. It's a very sensitive space to be in. So what people say matters. Part of this is also trusting in source. If people believe in um, a higher entity, being, whatever you really want to call it, source consciousness, Christ consciousness,
Mhm.
um, but believing that you're in the right place at the right time, and when you're with the right facilitator, um, they will have the right things to tell you, at the right timing. So being a sacred witness from a facilitator's point of view is seeing the craziest wild shit that can come out, and really holding people no matter what through that
Mhm.
experience. And just imagine, people who have lost their children, or veterans who've been at war. um, they can't really go back to therapy and start talking about certain things, because life is multidimensional. It's not just verbal. You can't really put words to certain experiences, and our bodies, we absorb all of this energy, and it actually is stored in our fascia. So what psychedelics
Yes.
do, they have the ability to tap into the somatic system, and we are able to express that energy somatically. And that might look like a million different ways, just like there's so many different ways that people gain trauma. It can look like 1,000 different ways of somatically releasing that trauma. So some people verbally talk through it, other people, there's no words, and it
Mhm.
really is about being in that experience. And going back to being a sacred witness of a facilitator is knowing when it's time to give feedback and some words, and whenever it's time to hold the container with love and compassion, and knowing that what they're experiencing is sacred in that moment. And it's not about us at all. It's about the person who is fully in the experience, because that experience is an epitome, a pinnacle in their life that they will never forget. And I talk to so many people that say, "Wow, like I had a mushroom journey whenever I was 22," and they're like in their 50s or 60s, and they still say that was such an impactful moment in their life. So we have the ability to guide people through something that can change their life forever, and how we do that really matters. So, yeah, being the sacred witness and holding that container of love and trust, and trust is such a precious thing, you know? So having
Absolutely.
that with other people is truly another level of healing.
You know, you summed up a lot of things that we talk about on this show. And yes, nobody is coming to save you. We have to save ourselves. That is the biggest thing. You know, we're always conditioned from the day we're born to consistently look without. We are looking without of us for happiness. We are looking without of us for validation. You know, looking without ourselves for healing, and really you just kind of nailed it, that it's all within. We have the ability to heal ourselves. It's taking that courage, it's taking that bravery, it's having that realization and that understanding. I like how you said the somatic release, because that's something that we talk about on this show a lot as well. We talk about the subtle body, and you know, your subtle body is your energy body, it is your emotional body, and this is where you happen to store a lot of that trauma. And yes, that is very awesome that, you know, these medicines actually work with that aspect of you, you know, and it helps you kind of gain an understanding. It helps you almost in some ways transmute this trauma from your emotional body, to be used for higher purposes, for your own healing, you know, or to help facilitate the healing of others. I like how you call it a sacred witness too. I do think that is a very special thing somebody can experience, you know, is to kind of be there for that person, to have that person, you know, trust you. It's a lot of responsibility as well, you know. So that's good that you've taken that and you've ran with it and you found this very deep meaning in what you're doing. And you know, you also have that deep understanding of what you're doing too, and that's good. I like that. I like that. Real quick, we have a comment from a viewer. Real quick, we have so much this with the somatic release and being a sacred witness. The witness transcends lots of healing modalities. Definitely, Sam. I completely agree with that. All right, Darris, let's kind of get to you, man. You know, because I know you're a facilitator as well. Let's hear about some of your experiences with facilitation. And has this helped you kind of heal your own on your own as well? Has this kind of brought a new element to your healing, you know, as an individual with facilitating the experiences?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Alina, you just killed that entire topic, by the way. It's like every single aspect of that topic, just hit the nail right on the head. But yeah, it has definitely been a very massive part of my journey as well. Like it's like I tell a lot of my clients all the time, just about every ceremony, man. Like when they ask me how if I enjoy, you know, doing the facilitating aspect of it and being a medicine guide, and like I said, I tell them all the same thing. It's like, yes, my individual experiences with the medicine are phenomenally beautiful. And that's just for lack of better words. Like there is no words to even describe some of these experiences. Like, yes, those experiences are amazingly beautiful. But on the opposite side of the same coin, when I am guiding people through these experiences and they're having their experiences, it is a completely different type of spiritual experience just for me. Like it is beautiful to watch people go through these experiences and knowing that not only do they trust me in their physical self, but that their soul is trusting that guided experience as well. And it adds a completely different layer to that spiritual experience for myself. Um, like I said, it's just beautiful in every way, just to watch people go through something that is completely life changing in every aspect. And when they come back and they fully trust you to talk about their experiences, what they were feeling during their experiences, and they get down to those core traumas and fears and PTSD, and they are trusting you with those things to talk with you about them. Like it's, and like I said, I know I'm being redundant, but it's beautiful, man. It really is. And that alone is more important to me in my healing than actually having an experience with the medicine for myself. I know that may sound crazy. I don't know, but I love that part more than actually having my own experience.
That doesn't
And
sound crazy at all, man. It doesn't, because what it is, at least in my eyes, this is what I'm taking from, each of your stories is, we've had this amazing realization within ourselves, like we've made this connection to, like I'm, of course, you guys know me. I'm a huge believer in source consciousness. We've made that connection to that source consciousness within us. And through that, we have awakened ourselves into this remembrance and this realization of the special divine beings that we are. And that brought to the surface, our healing and the things that we had to take into account to kind of bring ourselves to become better human beings and to help, break generational curses, whether it be addiction, the different traumas that we go through, and all that. And now we have found a sense of peace and a sense of reward in helping others go through these experiences as well. And that also adds to our own healing, like, especially I'm not a facilitator, but with, my show that I do, like I was saying a little bit before Alina started, like I've healed myself kind of delivering the message and helping other people. It's helped heal me. So I can completely understand where you all are coming from on how it can be profound and such a special experience for each of you to facilitate, because you're helping others heal, and that's kind of helping you heal too. And it's kind of like this awesome reciprocation that's going on there. And absolutely, guys, I love each of your stories. So
and do you mind if I actually jump in and say this? Because I
absolutely,
really
go right
wanted to
ahead,
say
go right
this
ahead, Alina.
earlier.
Yeah.
So now I serve multiple different types of sacred medicine, and the combo is a purgative. And it was one of those things where never in my life did I think I would be working with a medicine like that. It just wasn't really attractive. And sometimes these medicines, it's like you are the custodian, you are the energetic custodian of people's lives, and they don't have the opportunity to really truly have a place where it's safe to take their mask off, like all the
Mhm.
way. So in my house, I have a jungle room with masks all over. And when people see that room, I say, now it's your turn. Like, take off your mask. This is the time to really do that and experience all of that. And combo is not an easy experience at all. It definitely is a multi-dimensional cleanse, and it'll bring you to your knees. And what we get to see, those who work with this medicine as a facilitator, is some really incredibly powerful energy that comes out. And a lot of that is, I mean, it can almost look demonic. Like, what can come out is fucking crazy. And this work, on the surface, we talk about how, like, there's a lot of gratitude being of service, and just watching other people heal. It is in a way reciprocal, and it heals us as well. But this is not something that I think a lot of people can just pick up and all of a sudden, oh, I want to be a facilitator and
Mhm.
hold that space. Because the type of energies that we work with are massive. And it's not just like you're sitting there and you're babysitting someone while they take mushrooms. There's an energy that is involved in that. And a lot of the times it can be really big, holding that space for another
Absolutely.
person. And it is massive amounts of responsibility. And sometimes you get cases where, it's nice and light. And then other times, I'm not even kidding. Some people say, wow, I feel like I just had an exorcism. And I just look into their eyes and I'm like, it's because you did. You know, like putting everything aside. Yeah, that is what came out. And this is over the course of decades of suppressing these painful emotions or whatever it is. And it's like, all of this stuff that we don't have the chance to like empty out the trash in our subconscious mind, it all piles up energetically, and it's like a pressure cooker, right? And like
Mhm.
that pressure cooker, like the gas needs to be released or else people implode or they explode. And when we notice, like when we are the ones holding people on the other side, man, it is not an easy thing. Sometimes, if it is an easy case, it's awesome, but it's not always that way. And
Mhm.
it can be, just as traumatizing for us as well. And as facilitators, we also need to take the time to integrate what we just experienced, because these experiences, they are, oh, in a way, a collaboration. This is a collaborative energy. It's not just myself or them. We are doing this together. And as they're experiencing their process, I'm also experiencing that process with them. So we're in it together, right? And a lot of the time I come out and I'm like, oh, wow, like I have to take some time to integrate what just happened, in
Absolutely.
order for me to find my own grounding, my own center, to also be of support for them whenever they're coming out of their experience too. And I think that's something that people don't really talk about. The other side of holding space that can be incredibly heavy. And just
Absolutely.
because you have a title of a facilitator doesn't always mean that you're able to hold all that. And a lot of the time it's really beneficial working with a professional team of people, especially if people have suicidal ideation or having an unstable home. I highly recommend people who don't have a stable home life to hold off until they're in a stable environment to do this type of work, because a lot of people who are facilitators, sometimes it's out of their scope of practice, and
Mhm.
you need more people to support you. And the facilitator is not the all saying God, the guru. So just going back to having responsibility over our lives and our journeys, and as a facilitator, also being able to see all of these life-changing experiences that a lot of the time can look fucking intimidating or terrifying as well. So just wanted to put that point in too.
No, of course. And I'm going to tell you what, I resonate with everything you just said, because some of the experiences I've had are not pretty. A lot of the times it does. It's like almost a it is. It's almost like an exorcism. It's like a purging. I've had experiences on different compounds where, I have. It has almost been like I was forcing, or something was revealing itself and getting ready to surface and be released. And I'm glad you kind of brought that to light, because, a lot of people, can sometimes be misinterpreted and under the impression that this is going to be an easy, beautiful experience. I mean, overall, it's going to be beautiful regardless. Don't get me wrong, but
There's nothing easy
easy.
about it, though.
The
Exactly.
medicine is going to give you what you need, not
Exactly.
always what you want.
Exactly.
100%. That even brings me to the quote. DMT doesn't care what your beliefs are, and like that's
Right. Right.
it's 100% the truth, though.
Yep.
Don, I see your question. I will get to that at the end. I will not forget. I'm going to star that, but I want to kind of go through a couple of things with everybody else here. Alrighty, guys. So no, I 100% resonate with each of you just said. Yes, we're working with really huge energies here. You're working with sacred energies as well. And yes, I agree with you, Alina. Like it's you can't just hop into this and think you're going to be a facilitator. No, there's a huge responsibility that comes along with that, as we can see, especially when we're dealing with the very deep personal energetic insides of somebody, and what could potentially be going on there for sure. Alrighty, guys, I want to hop into this because this is something I'm really big on. And actually, I got even bigger on it after I spoke with Neil and Alina when they were on the show back in season 1. But I want to talk about the integration and the inner work that follows these experiences, because I tend to see, maybe not so much in our community on Facebook or things like that, but I see it a lot of other places, in other communities as well, that, people are just doing the medicines, they're skipping the inner work, they're skipping the integration. And at least in my eyes, I feel like they're doing themselves a disservice. they're not taking time to really break down what they experienced. They're not taking time to integrate the lessons from what they experienced into their day-to-day lives, into their awareness. It seems like we have a lot of people who just want to have an experience, and then as soon as they possibly can, repeat the experience again, and I'm not going to lie, in the very beginning when I was young, I was that way, but then I kind of saw, that this is not the way I need to be doing this, that, we have to honestly work with the medicines. And I know you guys have said this plenty of times before. The medicines just open the door for you, into this healing. And, you have to take it upon yourself to facilitate the healing on your own personal level in your day-to-day lives. So, Neil, we'll start off with you. Why don't you break down for everybody how important the integration in the inner work is after the experience? And I want to definitely emphasize important, because at least in my eyes, it's next to the importance of the experience, if not more important.
Mhm.
So the ceremony is, I'd say, the easy part. It's the easy part compared to the integration. You really must learn the lessons that you are showed while you're on your journey, while you're taking your ayahuasca or your bufa or whatever journey you have been on. Because if you come away from there and you think it's going to be all roses, it's not. You've got to take in the lessons that it's shown you, because if you don't learn those lessons and integrate it with your life, the next time round it'll kick your ass. You know what I mean? Because you have not listened to it, it will kick your ass and say, get back in there, and it'll punish you for it. So you come away from that, and if you don't integrate, I mean, I am guilty. The first time I did ayahuasca, I was guilty. It was like, I started not sleeping properly, not eating properly, feeling really depressed. And then I spoke to the facilitator, and he's like, Neil, have you not been writing down notes? Have you not been writing down how you feel? He goes, why did you not tell me this 2 weeks ago when it started? And I'm like, I thought I'd be okay. He's like, no, Neil, you will not be okay. So he helped me through this, and it's like the important part, because it is bringing everything that's on the back of your subconscious to the front of your mind. Everything you've forgotten about, it is making you remember. You have got to deal with that all at once. Because like Alina said, even through the ceremony, but afterwards as well, there's no stop button. It is in charge of you. You are not in charge of it.
Right.
100%. 100%, man. 100%. No, and it, and that's why I laughed when you said if you go back in without integrating, you're gonna get pissed off with you. 100, dude. I've gotten my spiritual ass whoopings, a couple of times. That's the best way to describe it. And I'll tell you what, in a lot of ways, I'd rather take a physical one, but the spiritual one, it teaches you that lesson for sure. All right, Alina, let's talk about the importance of integration and inner work after the experience, because that's what you specialize in. So let's break into your perspective on it and how important it is, because like I said, I feel like it's one of the most important aspects of taking the medicine.
It is the focal point, because otherwise, why are you coming to the medicine? You're coming to you're coming to the medicine for something, whatever that is. Whether you're trying to find more fulfillment in your life, maybe life has been feeling like black and white, and this repetitive, mundane pattern of constantly waking up, doing the same thing, going to work, not feeling fulfilled in work, coming back. And I think that's why a lot of people who go to ceremonies, they experience something that is much different from their everyday life. In a way, this is like a snow globe that you shake it up and everything like comes to life, right? It's all over the place. And part of psychedelics is to disrupt your pattern of your everyday pattern, right? Kind of causing organized chaos, on purpose, to kind of help you look at your own stuff, right? Because maybe it was hidden in the back, but after you shake that snow globe, everything's coming down. Now, when things are coming down, and this is an analogy I use with my clients, it's up to you to catch it. right? Now we have the responsibility of not doing anything at all and just letting things come back down and kind of crash and get all over the place, or we take the time to organize our own thoughts, our own patterns in our life, so that way we can clear out the things that no longer work. So integration is the focal point. That is why people should come to the medicine. Otherwise, they're coming to a medicine for the experience of having fun, which, no judgment, to each their own. A lot of people go to festivals and they have an incredible time. And I've talked to a lot of people who say, like, this is my church. So there's no judgment for those who turn to medicines for fun, but usually if you're coming to especially these big ones, like MDMA therapy, psilocybin, ayahuasca, 5-meo DMT, and ibogaine, you're usually working with something that's very deep, right? So people who come to these medicines, it would be quite out of alignment thinking that you're just going to give your power away to a substance and all of a sudden things are just going to magically align for you in life. Now, the chances of that happening, I mean, it's slim, but it can happen. Some people come back and then they're like, oh, wow, I can, things have kind of reorganized themselves and I can see how my life is. And they naturally go into the flow. And some people might not need a structural integration process. Maybe they already live out in the woods and they take hikes and they integrate with nature, so it doesn't always have to be some kind of like boot camp type of, structure where you have to go by a certain way of doing things. But when people come to these medicines, usually it's because they need help, right? And these medicines are opening up doors. They are keys, literally. They are chemical keys that open up pathways in our own consciousness for us to step through. So that is what they're doing, is allowing us to step through the doorway and to the other side. And they show us lessons. They show us things about ourselves that we've never seen before. But that experience itself is only 20% of the work, because then you have to come back and you're in this plane of reality where you still have to chop wood and carry water, right? So like you still have to find the fulfillment in your daily life, and you still might have the same job. You might still have to go back to the same home, be around the same people. And it's really pulling yourself out and asking yourself, okay, I am responsible of my own life and I need to make changes. And these substances, these sacred medicines, they gave me the ability to see things that I might have not been able to see before. But it is up to us. No one can no one can chew the food for you. No one can swallow for you. Like, it is up to us to do the work to actually make things stick. Because these sacred plants and earth medicines, as I refer them to, a lot of them cause neurogenesis in the brain. Your brain is literally growing, and that is prime opportunity to really start reprogramming your mind into a direction that is more healthy for you. And sometimes it's complicated. Sometimes we have so many problems that we don't even know where to start. And part of that is also getting the assistance from specialists who can help in those different areas, so that way it doesn't feel so heavy, like you're the only one going through this and you have no help. So integration looks different for everyone, but it's absolutely essential, because otherwise you're coming to the medicines and you're chasing these medicines, right, to get high or have this beautiful experience. But at the end of the day, we are always coming back to ourselves. And the most important relationship you're ever going to have with anyone is yourself, and learning that pathway and how these medicines speak to us to be able to integrate that in our own daily life so we can live more fulfilled.
100%. No, and in my experiences, I've been told, at least just in my experience, there's some of the medicines are okay for fun, but then there's some that have just explained to me, yo, we're strictly for healing, man. You're not coming here just, and that's why I'm one of the only people I know who's had a positive Salvia Divinorum experience. And one of the reasons why though is because, so I remember when I was young, when it was first going out, I was, kind of ridiculous. I had the 120X. It was a bad experience. But then as I grew in my knowledge about psychedelics and things like that, I decided to approach it from that healing standpoint. And when I approached it from that healing standpoint, I had a very beautiful experience with that plant. In fact, the plant spirit took the kindness of letting me know the reason why so many people had bad experiences with me is because I was being advertised as a party drug back then. I was being advertised as a replacement for cannabis or a legal replacement for cannabis and things like that. And people were treating me as a party drug. And the spirit communicated to me and let me know, hey, look, this is not for fun. You come here to heal. Okay. So, and I remember like once I took that perspective with that plant, I had a beautiful experience with it. It was absolutely amazing. It was very profound. But no, I'm with you. Some of these medicines, man, especially my Yopo experience that I had too, definitely for healing. Some of this stuff is not, and in my eyes too, I feel like because a lot of these are truly meant for healing, some of the spirits almost take it like as a form of disrespect. If you kind of show up there and you're trying to have like a good time when they're trying to show you like these deep parts of yourself that you're trying to heal. So totally, I am in 100% agreement with you. Let's move on to Darris. Darris, let's hear about your opinions on integration in the inner work, how important they are, and your experiences and potentially helping others with that as well.
Right. Like I said at the beginning, man, you have to do the dirty inner work. In my personal experience and my personal opinion, I firmly believe that the integration is by far the most important part of the entire process. Because just like Alina said, like if you're not doing the dirty inner work, like because you're coming for healing, you're coming for the healing. So if you're not doing the dirty inner work, it's just a novelty at that point. And it like a lot of people fail to realize that, if you're not doing that inner work, it also, like Neil said, like if you don't do enough of that inner work and you come back too soon, basically the medicine's going to waterboard the shit out of you. Like it's going to let you know, like, no, you still have work to do. Why are you even here? And the process is different for everybody. Some people that integration can be done for the most part of it fairly quickly, and then for other people it can take months, sometimes years, to even integrate that one experience. Like prime example was one of my Bufo experience. Matter of fact, my first Bufo experience. I literally spent a year and a half integrating that experience. Now, granted, when I first started my medicine guide journey, my teacher pretty much told me that this was going to be my initiation. So I was plunged deep, back to back to back, relatively within a close time frame from each other. But when I arrived at the Bufo experience, literally I spent a year and a half integrating that experience. And it was difficult because I was going through a time in my life to where there was a lot. Of course, Neil and Alina are familiar with it as well, but I was going through a time in my life to where I was struggling with doing my own integration, also helping guide other people through ceremonies, and then trying to deal with my everyday life on top of it, which was chaotic at the time. And also my teacher was also going through a very chaotic time frame. So like I had to basically improvise, you know what I mean? Like I had to actually dedicate a lot of time, personal time, free time, where, I lay my kids down to sleep at night, and, I'm a video gamer late at night. So I had to set that to the side, and I actually had to sit down many, many times and force myself to integrate whatever it was that I was experiencing mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually as a direct result from that Bufo experience. And like I said, this went on for a year and a half. And that's what I mean. Like, if you're not doing that dirty inner work, you're just piling more stuff on top of the already pre-existing traumas that you're trying to find the healing for. There was a saying that I'd heard one of the shamans, medicine guides, mention in a video, and it made perfect sense. Like, it's pretty much like a dog returning back to its vomit. Like, if you spent all of that time, energy, and focus on purging all of that trauma, PTSD, anxiety, depression, stress, if you put in all of that work and effort into purging that, and then you just return back to it, what are you really doing the purging for? And also there's something else that I heard. I believe Michael Pollard said this, and I also use this with a bunch of my clients as well because it's a very great analogy. Like, it went something like, if you look at your brain like a snowy mountain, and your thoughts are like sleds going down this snowy hill. Over time, those thoughts create burrows in the snow. And over time, those burrows get deeper and deeper. So you've got no choice but to keep going down those same paths. So what these medicines do is they wipe that slate clean, they wipe the snow flat so that your thoughts can create new pathways. And just like Alina said, it creates neurogenesis in the brain. So literally it's making your brain grow and heal in different ways that you have not faced before. And it's up to you to use that to your advantage and make it work to heal from your traumas and everything else that you are battling with mentally. And that's why it is so important for that integration. Like I said, it's just a novelty if you're not doing the dirty inner work.
100%, man.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Alina. Yeah. No. I was going to say, no, I love you guys' analogies on it, especially with the mountain and the burrows. Like, that's a really good way to get people to kind of understand what's happening.
Right.
And another thing is doing things with your left hand. You know, if you're right-handed and you try to write with the left hand, it's scribbly, it's messy, and that's what healing is. It's messy sometimes, and it's not easy, and you're so used to going in one direction. And what, you know, when we say a lot like doing the work. What does that mean? What does it mean to actually do the work? What it means is facing your own bullshit, and instead of blaming other people, actually doing something to change it within yourself so that way it doesn't keep on repeating in your life. If there's a pattern of unfulfillment in your life, we have to remember that we are the common denominator in this. So instead of giving our power away to all of these different circumstances, reminding ourselves that we actually have the power to change. And change is not always easy. And it is like writing with the left hand. And I completely agree, Darris. Like that whole analogy with, skiing, you're making those neuro grooves, and what fires together wires together, and our brains are firing off. And, that's kind of like, consciously making the decision to think more in a positive direction, because maybe our mind is so used to having these negative thoughts. And yeah, at first it's going to be a little weird to try to redirect your thinking, but you have to catch yourself in that moment whenever you're going down the negative spiral, because that is literally you doing things with the left hand, and eventually it's going to get easier. And as Dara said, like you're doing all of this effort to show up, do the work, and it's hard sometimes. A lot of people purge out all of this fucking toxic shit. And I know this isn't glamorous, but one of the medicine man that I was talking to, he said, would you drink that purge? Would you actually drink the purge that you just threw up? And like, no, fuck no, we wouldn't.
Hell no.
But that's what you do whenever you go back to the toxic patterns, is you literally refill yourself with that toxicity. So it's just another reminder that we're doing all this work so that way we can get it out of our lives and keep it out.
100%, man. And you guys are hitting the nail on the head. I got a couple of questions from two viewers real quick. We're going to bring up the first one. So this is Don Rogers from March 4th Productions. He wants to know, is there a safe way to solo blast off, or would they always suggest having someone back in this reality holding them safely?
So are we going in order or just cue in?
No,
Well-
you guys know. Yeah, whoever, open floor, whoever wants to answer
So-
first. Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, and also in the way that I was taught, that regardless of which medicine it is, it's always the best option to have a facilitator there with you. And if you do not have access to an actual facilitator, medicine guide, shaman, whatever you want to refer to them as, at least have a trip sitter that has knowledge behind the experience with the medicine that you are sitting with. Now, granted, once you get into the bigger medicines like ayahuasca, bufo, like, no, definitely do not even attempt those solo. By no means. Your safety comes first, no matter how you look at it. And with those medicines, it is extremely important to have a facilitator there with you. But things with like psilocybin, DMT, changa, maybe even San Pedro, is like at least have a trip sitter there with you that is familiar with the experience, what you're going to go through, what kind of emotions you're going to be dealing with during the process. So that way you have someone there with you to help keep you grounded in case, you start like thinking you're going to freak out or it's becoming overbearing or overwhelming or too much. But yeah, like I said, once you get into the greater medicines like Bufo and Aya and peyote even, like, yeah, for sure have a facilitator that knows what the hell they're doing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I second that as well, Darris. And that also includes Iboga and Ibogaine
Yeah.
as those is as Iboga is becoming more popular. Iboga is nothing to mess with. That's definitely
Right.
something to have a facilitator with. And not to repeat everything, because Darris really hit the nail on the head there, but you'll never know what will happen. You will never know. So just having a backup or safety is a number one priority, because you don't know what realms you're playing in. And having
Exactly.
someone on the outside, God forbid anything happens, they can take care of you.
Right.
Awesome. Neil, let's get your thoughts before we move on to the next question.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, for example, with Changa. So, it's pretty readily available, but what you've got to think before you jumping in with a medicine like this is that it can react with antidepressants and antipsychotics. There's a lot to assess before you jump in, and if you're just going to be buying it for the fun and taking it for the fun, it's dangerous. Do you want to end up waking up in A&E or, waking up in your own vomit because you've reacted with whatever it is you're taking? So, hell no, you've got to have somebody ideally there to watch over you, read into it, learn about it, whatever you're taking, it all has consequences. It's all fun till it goes wrong.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
100%, man. I couldn't agree with you guys more. Now we have a question from Sam. Do you think you need to be able to already have a grasp of doing the work to integrate before taking plant medicine? Should this be done, if not with more long-term healing support?
I can
I guess-
dive into that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Whoever wants to dive in.
I was
agree.
still reading to understand the question here.
Yeah,
So
no worries.
so what she's meaning is, do you already need to have a grasp of inner work and doing the work to integrate the experiences?
Okay.
Yeah, before taking plant medicine, should this be done, if not with more long-term healing support? That's what she means by that. Is it okay? Should we have a grasp of what it means to do inner work before we ingest the medicines, or is that something we can learn along the way? That, I guess, would also dive into that as well.
Yes and no. So, yes. Why is that a yes? So that way you have the tools to be able to have, just in case something incredibly challenging comes out on the other end. If something brings on a panic attack and you've never had a panic attack before, and you just unleash the gas, right, from the pressure cooker, it can be absolutely overwhelming. And you're in a place of desperation, not knowing what to do. So having some sense of how to do integration and what can help is absolutely important. So that way you don't feel helpless in the state of, oh my God, I'm suffering and I can't I don't know what to do, right? You never want to be in that position. At the same time, no, whenever I say both yes and no, a lot of the times, and some medicines, for instance, like Wachuma, mescaline, San Pedro, sometimes the integration happens just naturally. It is the messages that you get, and it's like going down a river. And it's so authentic and pure that we have our own innate ability to heal, and it's intuitive too, so being able to walk in nature and have these thoughts, it's not something that necessarily you need to read out of a book how to integrate in that way. It's something that naturally happens through that process. So that's my answer.
So I know one reason
Pretty
why
good.
she's asking this, because Sam's and actually somebody in our spiritual collective who has never had a true psychedelic experience yet. She has used cannabis before, but she's all about doing the inner work and the healing, already in her life. So that's why I know she asked that question. But Darris, were you going to say something too, man?
Um, I mean, basically to touch up on what she had said, like it really is a yes and a no answer. Like, yes, it is. It's good to have prior knowledge of that inner work before having an experience. So that way you can somewhat know what to expect as far as the type of work or how much work you're going to have to put into the integration post ceremony. Um, just to have an idea. So that way you're not, treading into unfamiliar territory. Well, I mean, it's going to be unfamiliar territory regardless, but you know what I mean. But as far as the no goes, like a lot of that inner work is what makes it inner work, and that's basically the unknown. You know what I mean? Like once those things start surfacing for the first time and you're learning how to deal with them, that's what makes a lot of the dirty inner work worth putting the effort in for. So yeah, I agree with her on that. Definitely a yes and a no answer.
And
Awesome.
for the you say dirty inner work, and yeah, it can be dirty sometimes. The part where there's some things that come up, and my mentor calls them the ordeals, and these are the initiations. You don't know how to go through them, and you might feel like you're in a crisis, right? We call these spiritual emergencies, and part of that is your life, like it's pushing you to a certain edge where you are able to reflect your own resiliency, right? And it's the initiation to see how far can you go within yourself, and if you're able to face these things about you, right, and actually do what is not comfortable to do, which is the inner work.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to throw that in
Oh
there
yeah,
as
do
well.
that.
No worries, no worries. I 100% agree. Neil, do you have anything you'd like to add to that too? And then we got one more question from a viewer, and we'll move on.
Darris and Alina have pretty much said everything that I've got to say.
Amazing, amazing, dude. You guys are all hitting it right on the head. All right, so we have from Frankie Elliott over on X. We have what is recommended after preparing cleansing preparation would be the first medicine to experience, try, and method. So what he means by like that is what would be, as far as prepping, cleansing for this kind of experience. I know you guys have talked about dietas before. I think that's something we should definitely highlight here. And what would be a first, I guess, more friendly plant medicine experience to try and the method of undergoing it?
So
I would
I
go ahead, Neil.
Darris.
Go ahead, Neil. Me and
So
Alina had a similar last one.
I would say if you're just starting out, if you are just starting out with medicines, you're gonna start basic with mushrooms. Mushrooms are the perfect starting point, and then you'll work from there depending on how far you want to go and how far you feel it served you.
Awesome,
Absolutely. That was where I was
You
going to
know,
start at too.
yeah, mushrooms, I would absolutely agree, because, there's other, party drugs that people can take, and it's just a fun experience. It's very open-hearted, Molly or MDMA, and some of the other synthetic strands that are out there. And it's all fun and games until you actually start going into the work of unpacking some stuff. And even though, we say mushrooms is like a great beginner like medicine to get into, mushrooms can be no joke.
Oh
Like
yeah,
they can
Oh,
really, like there's you can be an expert and still get your ass handed to you by mushrooms. So,
absolutely.
tread carefully
100%.
and come with no ego, putting that ego aside and really cleaning your feet before stepping into the temple. Because this work is not it's not light all the time, and it could be wonderful and a beautiful experience. But when you tread the waters, sometimes you can get in the deep end, and before you do the bigger medicines like ayahuasca or DMT, bufo, iboga, we highly recommend you swimming in the waters of mushrooms and seeing how you do. Maybe take a little baby step. I started, and I've had my own experiences with mushrooms in the past where it was for fun. And then I started taking it therapeutically. And microdosing psilocybin has really got me off of pharmaceuticals,
Hmm.
SSRIs. And I was, they saved my life. But, just kind of dipping your toes, maybe try microdosing, see how that does. Maybe trying 1.5 grams of mushrooms with, having a friend there and see how you go. I would not recommend anyone to go in for 7 grams of mushrooms your first time. Gently step into those waters, and as you learn how you operate in those realms, and as you learn how to release control, that's whenever you can kind of gain the ropes to go down in the deeper waters with the bigger medicines.
I would agree with that 100%, man. No, yeah, no mushrooms. Well, dude, the mushrooms. I mean, they can get you to a DMT level breakthrough. It's one of the harshest ways to go if that's the the route that you're trying to take. Trust me, I would know from experience. But no, I think you guys really hit the head. You guys are getting some love, by the way. We got Karen from Great Full Heart saying 100% Neil. And we've got Sam coming in. Great answers. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you all. And yeah, thanks for answering the questions, guys. All right. So the next thing I kind of want to touch on real quick. So, especially since iboga is coming into the picture, I have a friend of mine who just recently went on, and you guys all know them as well. So, freaking who just went on an iboga experience. And we know that iboga can be rough, at least everybody I've talked to, it can be not an easy experience. But that leads me up to my next question. We see kind of like almost this dissection a little bit, and this digestion of, certain medicines working for certain things, right? And we've looked into the research of ibogaine, ketamine, and salvia, really helping with opioid addiction, because these medicines in and of themselves, they work on the kappa opioid receptor. They're atypical in the way that they cause the experience than your classic tryptamine psychedelics. But the one thing I want to say is, they've seemed to be really good for that purpose. I've heard so many stories and seen so many testimonials on a lot of opioid addicts who have gone to iboga treatment, or have done ketamine microdosing, or have done salvia divinorum, and it has helped them kind of overcome and rewrite their brain for that addiction. So I kind of want to ask each of you, based on your individual expertise, are there certain medicines that work better for certain things, or do you guys feel potentially that these medicines can help and kind of blanket a lot of these different things? Because we see people talk about microdosing for PTSD. We've heard people talk about ayahuasca even for physical ailments and things like that, because what's in the harmala and the Syrian rue, they have these alkaloids that can actually help physically heal you and certain things in your body as well. So yeah, I just want to get your guys' take on that. Are certain medicines better for certain things, or is there kind of a way that a certain medicine can have a blanket effect and take care of multiple things? So let's start off with Neil.
So, like with shrooms, if you microdose, it can do for you in a matter of days what antidepressants could never do for you in a lifetime. the benefits of mushrooms are amazing. You know what I mean? But Big Pharma has probably got too much money to be made out of that at minute in time. If I wake up dead or you find me dead another week, you know why, okay?
We know you didn't kill yourself, Neil. We know you didn't kill yourself.
Thank you. But like, you know, you get DMT and Changa, you know, again, mood lifters, they'll see you right for a few weeks. Like you said about ayahuasca, you know, when I did it last, it was a weird feeling. It was kind of like getting the movement back in my hands. It was like everything felt reborn and everything felt new. There were no aches, no pains. I'm getting on now. I'm like 43 years old, so I do ache a lot of time. But it was like my whole body would just be rejuvenated. You know, I was brought back to life. Whereas with Bufo, like I say, with Bufo is a complete mind, body, and soul reset. Each psychedelic has its own purpose, so you should really read into it before you jump into it. And like Iboga, like you just said, it works well with people with addictive personalities, with addictions towards heavy drugs and whatever. People can go in and they'll come out completely reset, not wanting to touch it, and completely start a life afresh.
I love it, man. I love it. Real quick, everybody, somebody we know, Joey just hopped in the chat. She just said hello, so she is now watching. Yeah. So Alina, let's get your take on it. Do you think there are certain medicines that work better for certain things, or do you feel like, you know, one medicine can have a blanket effect and kind of take care of multiple things? I know that's probably a yes and no answer, but I want to get your take.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back to the statement that I made at the beginning about how you know, you're not going to the healer, you're going to the medicine to heal yourself. So what we face in these medicine journeys is the issues that we're facing. Maybe we have been suppressing an issue for so long that consciously we haven't given it the energy to really heal. And part of these experiences is to unpack all of that. And the actual act of unpacking it, what these medicines show us, is the healing potential. It is equivalent to the healing potential that you can receive. So, this is why, just as a general statement, why so many people who are working with psychedelics get relief from anxiety, depression, you know, PTSD, and addiction. Addiction specifically, you know, Iboga is getting a big, a lot of attention for its potential treatment for addicts, for opiates. And yes, there are definitely some that work with specific issues better than others. Iboga being one of those things. Also, you know, ayahuasca can seriously break addiction for people. I've heard from so many people, especially alcoholism, where after they had an experience with ayahuasca, they might have come back and they had a few drinks, and while they're having these drinks, they're like, you know, I don't really need this, you know, and they let go of that. My own, and this might be a biased perspective because I absolutely am so incredibly passionate about the molecule, the God molecule, 5-MeO-DMT. But why I believe in this one so much is because it can help with addiction. It can help with serious issues in life, you know, uh, resistant depression, anxiety. You know, MDMA has been shown to really help people, you know, especially like veterans with PTSD. So all of them, they have their own little personalities. It's like they have their own energy and personality and characters. And maybe you know, maybe you get rubbed the wrong way by one of them. Maybe, you know, the energies don't fully align with how you operate. And that's okay. We're not for everybody, right? And so these medicines aren't for everybody either. But at the same time, I go back to the belief that the healing happens whenever you face yourself. And that can happen whether you take mescaline and, San Pedro, or whether you're sitting with the most powerful medicine of Iboga. And, the spectrum
Mhm.
there is Iboga is basically going to bury you underground, and it's going to show you your death and rebirth. It's going to take you to the core of the issue or the addiction, and not sugarcoat it. While MDMA might have a softer way of kind of unpacking that for you, maybe with a little bit of kisses involved. So yeah.
For sure, for sure, for sure. Alrighty, Darris, let's get your take on that, man. Do you think that there's certain medicines that work better for certain things, or is it possible we can have one medicine that works for many things? I mean, let's get your opinion on it as well, man.
So yeah, like in terms of like they were speaking, so iboga would, like, for people that are so deep in drug addiction to where they have no other options for a course of action to help pull themselves out of that addiction and addictive state of mind. Iboga would definitely be the prime example of one medicine being better for one particular thing. But I have noticed over my experience and time working with the medicines and all the clients that I've had, that I've noticed that everyone is different. And
Mhm.
like what, like, say if one of my clients is sitting with DMT for PTSD issues, um, I've noticed how some of them clients, like, it will fully heal them from that PTSD. And then others, like, it helps with it, but not to the extent to what they needed. So they need something a little more like ayahuasca or San Pedro or something of that nature. So like I said, it's different for everyone. Where sometimes certain medicines will help with those specific things for some people, and in other people they need a different route.
Of course, man. Of course. No, and I love these answers too, because you just brought up something, I think what happens in, especially our Western civilization is we always try to generalize a one size fits all method.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
we always have this very dualistic black and white mentality when it comes to approaching things like this and concepts such as these. But I think you just laid it out, Darris. Everybody's body is different, and every body is different as well. What might work for me might not necessarily work for you.
Exactly.
What works for Neil might not necessarily, work for Alina. So that's something that's up to the discretion of the individual and their experience and what they take from it. Of course, I've had certain compounds that didn't really jive with me, and I really, I use other medicines because of that kind of work with me on a more energetic level and on a more honest level too as well. But nonetheless, guys, awesome answers. Real quick, we have a couple of comments from the viewers. We have Transcending Ascension. She says, I think they could work for everybody. It's their ego in the way, especially psilocybin. It's universal. And the one thing I'll say where I resonate on that too, like that is something I've talked with a lot of people, even though I'm not a facilitator myself. But anytime somebody comes to me, asking should they try this experience, one of the biggest things I would even recommend to somebody would be have a good meditation practice before you decide to, because then you get used to letting go. And that's a really big thing with these medicines, is you have to let go. You have to let go and surrender into this experience. And a lot of people might not 100% have a grasp of what that means, as far as like letting go. But no, that's kind of a good statement there, I'll say, for that. And yes, it can be the ego. The ego is one of the hardest things that people have a hard time letting go of. And that's why I always at least say have like a profound meditation practice. That would be something I would recommend if you're looking to getting into these experiences. And we got Joey. Ibogaine has helped so many of my veteran friends, and we know it's helped you too, friend. So like that's definitely an amazing thing there. Nonetheless, guys, all right, we are coming up on the hour and a half mark, so we'll touch a couple of things, and then we do have to have the Neil and Darris bro down at least for like a couple
Can
of
I
minutes.
mention
Just
one thing?
yeah. Go right
Yeah.
ahead. Go right ahead, Alina.
So talking about, all size fits all, you got to think about people's nervous systems,
Hmm.
and what they have been through. People with trauma sometimes come in with a very ungrounded nervous system, and really big experiences might not be for them quite yet. I think part of this, along with meditation, is grounding techniques. What can bring you down whenever you're in a state of crisis? And I would always never recommend doing really big medicine like bufo or 5-meo when someone's nervous system is just not able to take something like that, because it can re-traumatize people, and that
Yep.
even goes for mushrooms. If the person is not grounded in their regular state of being, psychedelics might not be the pathway to that. So yeah, back to the fact that no size fits all, and the nervous system has a really big part to play in all of this.
I would
Absolutely.
completely, I would completely
Hmm.
agree with that. And we got Joey saying great answer. So heck yeah.
Yeah.
So other than that, guys, let's kind of get into the next couple topics real quick. The first one I want to talk about is if you guys have any new research or any new legislations on psychedelics that you guys would like to bring into the sphere. I know that Alina, you actually went down to, what was it, the Missouri State Capitol, and you spoke with some politicians about psychedelics. So why don't you kind of fill in everybody on what you did down there and the progress that's kind of happening with that?
Yeah, so I have been a psychedelic advocate for the past 4 years. I have been coming down to our state capital. Really, after my first Bufo experience, it took away my fear in really being vocal about these things, and these medicines are worth fighting for. So I ended up going straight to the center of my own legislation, to the capital of Missouri, to see what I can personally do. I think we highly underestimate our own power, and with numbers, we can really make a difference. So myself and a few veterans have been working together. We have been advocating every year and kind of pushing this forward, which has been an uphill battle. The past few years, a few bills have come up, and we are slowly changing tides in different House of Representatives and senators' mindsets. And really, it is about educating people. A lot of people still have that taboo of thinking that this is your mind on drugs, right? So they have that connotation of the egg frying in
Yep.
in the iron. Yeah, so like a lot of it is about re-educating and finding the results from different research studies. And even those who are on board and they're like, oh yeah, like we can see the potential of this. Most people, most representatives and senators say, well, there just needs to be more research. And here's the reality. We have been researching psilocybin for the past like 50 plus years. So it's not about not having research anymore. The MDMA trials have shown themselves, and I'm actually shocked that it hasn't been, passed, and so many people have been devastated by it. But there is plenty of research, and the research shows that they work. And a lot of this research shows that psilocybin is way more effective than SSRIs. So
Absolutely.
when
Yeah.
veterans' lives are on the line, there's 44 veterans dying each day, and the solution is SSRIs that have been linked to having increase in suicidal ideation. We're not really fighting for the cause of saving veterans' lives.
No, they're
So
just
part of
slapping
this.
band-aids on it.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
part of this is really standing up for your beliefs, and these veterans that are with me, I look up to them. They are some real ass motherfuckers who are there to
Yeah.
really get the job done. So we got to remind ourselves that the people at the Capitol, they work for us. And ultimately, it is
100%.
our responsibility to go to them and say, hey, this isn't working and we need to do something about it. And here's the results from all these research studies. So fortunately, with our pressure at the Capitol, things are starting to move a little bit along in Missouri, which, we look at other states like Colorado and Oregon and California, and those states are a lot more progressive. But the fact that Missouri is actually getting further along than a lot of other states is really a blessing, because we really need it. We have a really big methamphetamine and opiate crisis here too. So,
Mhm.
yeah, just recently we had a Senate Bill 90 that was heard in the Committee of Families, Health, and Seniors be heard, and they're still deciding on this, and we are really excited. The veterans that I was with, they testified from their own experience of how this changed their lives. I have testified before as, first responder, and how this can make a massive change for first responders. And really,
Absolutely.
it's about continuing to show up, because if you just show up once, or if you email them or call them, that's like little gnats. Like, okay, like you have to be persistent, you have to show up with a mission, and you have to keep going. And we are expecting psilocybin to roll out as a treatment here in about 2 years. So there is infrastructure that is being
Amazing.
created now. There are professionals who are medical doctors who are working on a protocol for different practitioners who would be using psychedelic therapy along with psychotherapy. And there's also quality control. So part of this is making sure that the product, and I don't like calling sacred medicine product by any means, because then it turns into this capitalistic perspective. So I have kind of a hybrid view where I honor these sacred medicines as what they are, but also people are dying. There should be a treatment plan to be able to go into a clinic, to go into the VA, and have the right to try. So, yeah, just recently in the past few days, there was the Senate heard the Innovative Therapy Center of Excellence Act, and it aims to enhance access to innovative psychedelic assisted treatments for veterans by establishing centers of excellence with the Department of VA. The Veterans Affairs. These centers will focus on research, education, and clinical implementation of evidence based innovative therapies to address mental health conditions such as PTSD, depression, and substance use disorder. And basically, the problem that we're having is they want to see the research. Well, of course, but there has been research, and now it's time to actually implement some of this. So I think what this act is doing is providing the VA to force them to create and designate these certain centers where the research and the implementation happens at the same time, so we can save some
Excellent.
lives.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. I
Good.
love to hear
Well
that.
done. That's
Dude,
great.
well done, Alina, for sure. And like that's really, I think you kind of even brought up a even bigger point, and this is something that we talk about on my show a lot, is we have to shift into this solution based mindset. Like we have to understand that we ourselves, just like we've kind of been talking about this whole show, we have the power, even just as a single person, to create a great change in our world. And that's something, we have to realize within ourselves. And like you said, just keep showing up, always keep showing up, always doing the calls, things like that. And that's honestly, the way to get things done, and that we were breaking that down on my episode last Wednesday, overcoming the victim mentality. I feel like, in a lot of ways, collectively, we still kind of have that, when it comes to tackling these problems or these changes that, we wish to see in our world, and we wish to see in our reality. And of course, all four of us here know that the real change always starts from within. But
Yeah.
as that change starts from within, you can start to manifest the change on the without also. And you can put your foot forward into doing things like this, and that's one thing I want to kind of inspire, everybody who's listening here, just like I started my podcast, just like I know people down at Colorado Capitol Hill right now, speaking out against the gun ban they're trying to pull here. Just like, how I know Alina here and, Darris and Neil, they're doing their best to kind of like, put their foot down and kind of cause this change that they want to see in the world, these new regulations and, this open-mindedness. I 100% agree with you, Alina. I think we even have even longer research. I think it's longer than 50 years with certain compounds.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to like 70 and 80 years for a lot of these. And it's just ridiculous. Like how many thousands of lives are gonna like be taken because you want to see more data. At what point is we're to here with data? It's now time to actually implement these medicines in our lives. And there's
Damn
that
right.
resistance with big pharma. So they're trying to catch up and figure out how to get their little tentacles in this too.
Yep. They're
You
trying
know,
to figure out how
so
to monetize it.
yeah,
100%.
with patents and
Yep.
creating synthetic psilocybin, and part of that is
Ugh.
taking away the side
That's
effects of the hallucination. It's like, no, that is the medicine. If you take
Yeah.
away the mystical, you're taking away the ability to heal.
Yeah, all they're doing is just pulling the spirits out of the spiritual experience, like the whole process. Like they're just basically saying, all right, well, we're going to make sure we're making the money off of this. We don't care what happens for you and how you do whatever it is you do. Like they don't care about none of that.
And that's why there's
Yeah.
profit being made off of addiction.
Yeah.
And there's a really phenomenal gentleman. His name is Brian Hubert. And if you guys haven't heard about him, honestly, he is exposing the dark side of addiction and how all these states have these grants to fight addiction and it does not work. And if they just simply replaced it with ibogaine treatments, people would actually have a chance, because methadone and other opiate replacements, that's really what they are. It's just a band-aid over the real problem, and they costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, where ibogaine is one treatment and it's 80 to 85% effective. And just imagine someone who is coming out of an experience and doesn't have withdrawals anymore. It can change people's lives and it can save them.
Well, dude, you almost, man. It's funny when you said synthetic psilocybin, man. Like, I got a cosmic. Oh, fuck no! As soon as you said that, I'm just like, no, because, like, no, to you can't. That's something, and that's why I'm glad. Excuse me. That I think there is a U.S. patent. I forgot the exact patent number, but you're not allowed to patent nature. It is illegal in the United States of America to actually patent a natural plant. So thank goodness for that. We're glad that that's on the table. But man, dude, just even the thought of a synthetic psilocybin, like my internal self is like, absolutely not. No, stay far the fuck away from that. Like that is not something you want to deal with. So, but no,
You know what they can do though? They can't patent nature, but what they can do is patent the route of administration. So,
That
for
they
instance,
can, yeah.
5-MeO-DMT is a natural compound. It's a natural molecule in Earth. You can find it. It's a simple molecule. But right now in Ireland, they're working on a study that I just recently posted about. It's quite incredible, but they're working on a nasal spray. And it is so effective with resistant depression. So what they're doing is they're patenting the route of administration that they're able to, deliver these substances and sacred medicines in.
For sure. Go ahead, Darris. What were you say?
Oh, no. I was just agreeing with Alina.
Real quick, a couple of comments to our viewers, and then we'll move into the last question. So we have transcending ascension, 100% high frequency, and breathing exercises induce it as well. I think it all comes down to inducing DMT, activating the other realms, higher layers of existence. Good show topic. Thank you, Diana. Much appreciated. And we got Frankie Elliott over on X. Excellent broadcast. The future of healing is before us. When big pharma collapses, it will. I agree, my friend. These techniques and pathways will be at the forefront. The veil is thinning. The people are waking up to deeper, truer modalities, frequency, vibration, light, breath, and tension. When the system that's profited from sickness, synthetics, patents, profits, finally collapses. What's left will be rooted in real healing, not management. Godspeed. Thank you, Frankie. Much
Absolutely.
appreciated. Yeah. Alrighty, guys. Last question for you all. Now, this is kind of a little bit of a, kind of, we're going to go into a little bit of a hypothetical territory with this. So this is one of the things I wanted to bring up. In your own words, do you think that there could potentially be a organic synthesis in an elevation of humanity's collective consciousness through the use of these medicines? Because right now, I think, a lot of us see and have kind of been seeing it kind of come to life that we're kind of being nudged almost in this healthier direction right now. We see the whole Make America Healthy thing going on again. A lot of people are becoming more aware of the, what's in our food, the fluoride in the water. I've been talking about the fluoride in the water for 17 years and nobody's listened to me, but like now I'm glad people are. But, we're seeing kind of this nudge, this little kind of collective nudge towards this healthier way of being, this healthier way of life. So do you think over time, we can see this kind of organic synthesis of an elevated consciousness in our collective, especially on how we are with each other, because that's something I think, anybody who has undergone an experience with these medicines, they one of the first things, even, I still remember my first psychedelic experience when I was like 16. I remember coming out of that and going, man, I need to be a better person, dude. Holy shit. Like I need to be a better person, so let's kind of hear in your words, do you guys think we could potentially see like in the next like decade or two, kind of like a little bit of a renaissance in humanity, with access through these medicines? And do you think potentially this could even catalyze a healing on a collective level, not just a subjective level? Whoever wants to go first. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I said whoever wants to go first. Darris, you want to go first? Go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, it's already happening. I mean, granted, it's happening, in baby steps, a little bit by little bit, but that collective awakening is already happening. I mean, as you just touched on right there with everything that you just said, like with how society is starting to usher in the whole Make America Healthy again and aspects like that. But then you have other big names like MAPS, Multi Association for Disciplinary Psychedelic Studies, where Rick Doblin has spent over 30 years putting up the fight with trying to get a lot of these medicines legalized for therapeutic use. We're seeing more and more of that collective awakening happen over time. It's just not happening as fast as we would like for it to. Like you said, more people are becoming more aware of the things that's going on around us. And just like Alina said earlier, is that, psychedelics have had the taboo thing attached to them for so long that, just the mere mention of psychedelics, people are like, oh no, you're not supposed to do that. But now people are starting to realize, and like, I hate to say this, internet is probably to thank for a lot of that. Internet's like a double-edged sword, like it's the downfall of our society, but it's the information era of our society at the same time. So a lot of people are getting all this information through podcasts like this, information just in general with psychedelics from the internet, and it's educating people. And that's starting to raise that collective awareness. Like I said, it's not happening as fastly as we would like for it to, but it is happening.
100% agreed, man. No, sometimes things always happen on a subtle level before we really start to see the snowball effect. And that's why we're having this conversation today, man. Education, getting it out there, having people kind of hear about it from a objective, educated point of view, as opposed to all the propaganda and all of the other things that we see. And I agree with you, man. The internet's a tool, and like most tools, we can use tools to build great things, and we can, do a lot of great things with tools, but we can also use tools to destroy ourselves and bring out the worst of ourselves, and like the internet loves to bring out the worst in humanity right now. For the most part, it's changing though. But
yeah.
nonetheless, Alina, let's get your take on that.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say that these medicines, they're not new. They have been around for thousands of years. They have been used in society and ritual for far longer than United States has even been a country. So we got to think about how all of these laws and these perceived notions that these things, that these plants are bad, it's all arbitrary, and in a way, it's spiritual warfare. It is taking away the ability for us to heal. And these plants have been around for way longer than we have been. So, going back to the topic of, this consciousness and collective awakening, I think we are all, I mean, this is not just a thought, okay? We are all just particles through space vibrating in a dance. And this dance is one that is collective with all of us in it. And we are literally an experience where we're having a human experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And part of this is having that awakening within psychedelics of finally understanding that, and not understanding in a way of, oh, I have a belief that this is happening. This is a knowing. This is something deep within our hearts that we fully grasp and we understand, and there has to be no language to be talked about this. That's when we all align on the same frequency of a common understanding. And that's what the awakening is. That's the collective awakening. And, just as going into psychedelics, we recommend that you lose, your whole sense of having control. And it's the whole thing with the collective awakening. We are not in control of this. There is definitely higher energies that are working. And whether we like it or not, whatever we perceive in our reality of whatever darkness, evil, or, the good, right? The duality in this life, all it is a limited perception of what's really happening. And the show must continue. It goes on. And part of this is rediscovering ourselves. And sometimes rediscovery means having to be pushed to the edge of pain and suffering, where a lot of us are at this point in time, in order for us to have a catalyst in our own evolution, right? To finally push ourselves out of the comfort zone. So I think we have been in it. I think we have been in it for thousands of years, and it's an evolutionary dance. And, the hippies in the 60s, they dabbled in LSD, and there was so much resistance with the Vietnam War. The awakening was already happening, and they saw the power of these plant medicines, and that's why they were suppressed. That's why they became illegal. They know the power of these substances, and no matter how much you want to stuff it down, how much you want to make it secret, the truth will always come out, and our own power within will always prevail. So the collective awakening has been happening. We are in the revolution right now as we speak. And it's about everyone having and gaining the courage within to break free from their own chains and realizing that we have the power within. And at the end, we are all one.
Absolutely.
Dude, solid. 100% agreed on every point, and let's get to Neil real quick on his, and then I have a closing comment on that as well. Neil, let's get your perspective on this awakening. Do you think we are going to see it further with more people turning towards psychedelic medicines, and could this even potentially accelerate it a little bit?
I mean, the world is changing now. It's like I just spent 3 weeks in America, and one thing I did notice were that every advert were like big pharma, pills, 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 pills. You sit in front of a box like 90% of the people do over there, not everybody, and you're having that installed into you that you need a pill for everything. Every commercial were big pharma. But what you need to realize is for every big pharma medication, you have got a plant medicine alternative. You've only got to read into it. And now people are waking up. People don't want this force-fed push down the throats. The world's changing. People want a more natural way. People are sick of big pharma. all it is, it's money, 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 and greed, greed, greed. So yeah, it's nice that the world is changing, and hopefully, keep walking that path and trusting the process. It's time for change.
Damn right.
100%, man. Couple some love from the audience. We got great show from Don Rogers and some fire, and then we got Karen from Grateful Heart. She's saying thanks to you all for providing valuable info for our healing journey, and the internet is a double-edged sword. I agree with each of your statements. It's already happening. 100%, it's already happening at this point. And guys, we are in. I could say I couldn't be more grateful to be alive in these times that we're in right now. We are on the dude, I'm telling you, man, we're on the precipice of this human evolution, and we're not talking about the kind of human evolution that wants to merge us with machines. We're not talking about transhumanism evolution here. We're talking about becoming more human. We're talking about becoming more in touch with that humanity within
Coming
ourselves.
back to our roots.
100%. And that's why I kind of want to bring up this Terrence McKenna quote. I know you guys have probably heard this, but we've become so disconnected from our own soul that when we actually meet it the first time, we think it's an alien. And I think that kind of, ties into what we're saying. We're going to see this open connection to our true divine nature start to embellish itself into our collective. We are going to see this grow. We're going to see all these magnificent things occur. We're going to start healing these generational traumas, these generational curses. We're going to be healing addiction, PTSD, I got to send one of my friends to you guys. He's a vet for sure. I know he's been working with some other people at the VA, but Alina, Neil, and Darris, I'm going to pass on your info to him if that's okay, because I know you have questions and things like that as well. But nonetheless, man, I want to thank all three of you for taking time out of your busy day and your busy lives to come sit down here with me and to educate everybody on these medicines. I feel like this was a good refresher for everyone, especially for a lot of people who are newly on their spiritual evolution, who might be looking at this as a possible way to help expedite a healing process, especially if we have a lot of sticking points in our healing. Sometimes we get stuck in a particular perspective that can stop us, from kind of progressing further, or it can kind of keep us in a state of stagnancy. And I feel like, especially in my experience with these medicines, and as well as y'all's, I feel like this is a great way to kind of help somebody push past that perspective and to kind of see a deeper underlying meaning to what they're experiencing here as a whole, as a human being, their emotions and all. And this can really be a huge help to a lot of people. So real quick, guys, before we sign off, if you can hang out for just a couple minutes when we're done. Neil, why don't you tell everybody where they could find you and tell them about the Spirit Molecule Facebook group?
Yeah, so if anybody wants to reach out to me, you're more than welcome to reach out on the Spirit Molecule Facebook group. Lots of like-minded people, tell your stories, everybody gets on, it's a great vessel. Feel free to join anytime. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Alina, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you to reach out to you and about the God Molecule Facebook group?
Yeah. So if you ever want to reach out to me, reach out on integratethejourney.com. Also, you can find me on social media, Alina Vera Love on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, Alina Vera Love, and also Integrate the Journey on Instagram. We have created a community for common individuals who want to learn more about these powerful medicines. And the one that Neil has started the Spirit Molecule, and that kind of goes over all of them. You can bring up questions about mushrooms if you wanted to, or other plant medicines. I have later on created a group called the God Molecule, and that is specifically for 5-MeO DMT. So these groups are we created them to basically start a family. to be able to integrate with one another. A lot of the times, people who have tried these experiences, they feel alienated, like they can't talk about it with other people. And a lot of the time, these are, the climax experiences where they wish they had a group of people to connect with. So, yeah, feel free to reach out and join the group, the God Molecule, online on Facebook.
Amazing, amazing. And I do have Alina's links in both the Rumble and the YouTube descriptions of the videos. So if you want to reach out to her through her website, that will be there. And we have Darris, who is both admin on both the Spirit Molecule and the God Molecule groups. He has got a great position there as well. And but Darris, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and reach out to you if they have any questions as well?
Well, I don't have the luxury of having my own Facebook group, so I just help Alina and Neil with the two best Facebook groups that exist on Facebook. But if you would like to reach out, you can reach out to me on just my personal Facebook page, Darris Norfolk, or through the admin list in one of the groups. And I do have a Instagram page as well that I go by Plagues of Ink. Plagues, Plagues of Ink. That's just from where I was running tattoos for a long time, so I just haven't changed the name. But you can find me on either one of those.
Awesome, guys. Well, actually, like I said, I want to thank each of you. You got a little bit more love before we sign off here tonight. We got an amazing show. I've learned so much from you guys. Thanks for all your work. Everybody's really appreciative for all the questions answered. And nonetheless, guys, I want to thank you for joining me for a BG Cast special Sunday episode, another Psychedelic Sunday Volume 2. I will be back on Wednesday with high frequency content, aka Joey. She is going to be breaking down a pretty interesting story that she's been going through that is going to kind of highlight the corruption of our healthcare system and the pharmaceutical industrial complex. Some of the what I would say is the most eye-opening things that we can see, that we need to take a very much deeper look at our healthcare system, how people are functioning within it, and how they are treating patients such as children when it comes to certain medications and certain routes of treatment. Also, the treatment from the courts that have been involved in it, and the treatment from the doctors as well. So I'm really looking forward to finally helping her get her story out there. I really think that this is something that everybody needs to listen to. And it's going to, I think, put a perspective into what we're truly dealing with our healthcare system here in the United States. But nonetheless, thank you three again for joining me. Everybody, I will catch you on Wednesday. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a happy Sunday. Stay safe, stay free, but most importantly, stay sovereign always, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you all.